And I'm basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say it, if you want to come in a wee bit closer, and I'm just going to see if you've heard of it and what your thoughts are on it, okay? Also, if anyone else wants to get involved and add anything, just feel free, if you've got any questions as well. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so have you heard of Flat Earth?
I have.
Okay, what is your thought, what have you heard about it, what's your thoughts on it?
Just a lot of sort of baloney, I would say.
A lot of baloney.
Baloney.
Okay, so I take it from that answer that you then think that it's a globe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And can I ask, have you, I'm just going to be straight up, right? I think it's flat.
Okay.
Okay, but when I go into these conversations sometimes, it can sometimes get into a little bit of like an ego battle of like, you know, it gets a little bit like a battle, and I don't really want to do that. I just want to have a discussion with you, and we can look at your reasoning processes as to why you believe what you believe, and I'll explain my reasoning processes as to why I believe what I believe. Yeah? So, can I ask, have you done much research and investigated if it is in fact a globe, or?
Not really, but I feel like it's just what I've always known.
Or what you've been?
I've not had any reasonable reason to doubt it.
Yeah. So would you say that it's something that you've been taught and you've been shown, but you've never really investigated it? Would you say that's fair?
It's not something that I've really needed to investigate because I've not had any. Like I said, I've not had any sort of. It's not something that. Yeah.
No, you experience like you go up a hill and you see the horizon. It's kind of curved.
Come closer. The horizon.
Yeah, it's kind of curved. You can see a curve to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think like you observe it as a globe rather than it needing to be proved that it is.
Okay. So that's interesting because I'll tell you what my journey has been on this one so far, okay? So I also thought it was a globe. It's what I was taught, it was what I was shown, it's what I believed, it's what I said to people, we're on a globe, until somebody told me that it's not actually a globe. And when he told me this, I had the same reaction as you guys. This guy's lost the plot. Do you know what I mean? You've went too far.
Is that what you said? You just said it's not a globe, and you were like, oh right.
Well, this guy who I know, he's kind of like, he's told me other things as well before this, which I've also looked into previously, and there was something to it. So when he then presented this, I was already, you could say, slightly down the rabbit hole, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So you think it is kind of a process of you start doubting one thing and then you start doubting another thing, and it's more to do with that mindset maybe rather than actual.
There is people like that. There is people like that. I would say that I'm basically a direct realist, right? So in order for something to be true for me, I put it through a certain process where I can verify it.
Can you describe that process?
Yeah.
Hang on, we're going off. I will describe that process, but basically I go by practicality. If somebody's making a claim to me about the objective world, for example, if I said to you that I've got a unicorn in my house, you're not going to believe me. If I said, oh, here's a picture, you're not going to believe me. If you could bring it to the house and show you the unicorn, you could touch it and measure it in a practical fashion, then you'd believe me.
Okay.
So that's kind of,
It's through experience.
exactly, through experience. If I can experience it in my reality, then I'll accept it as being true. I don't go by what people say because people can lie.
Yeah.
I don't go by images because they can be manipulated as well.
Yeah, can't
So-
trust the internet for sure.
Exactly. So this guy told me it was flat. I then went on YouTube to try and basically prove that we are on a globe so that I could go, look mate,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, clamped you.
Yeah.
And then I started looking into it, and the more I looked into it, the more I started to realise, now this is just through my experience, you might go away from this conversation and look into it yourself and be like, you know what, it's definitely a globe and I'm just wasting my time here, that's fair enough. Because there's a lot of division in the world right now, and this is another thing that's quite divisive, is like people say, oh, it's flat and it's globe, and then people start arguing and there's just more division. And what I'm trying to strive for with this is more unity and more peace and stuff like that. So people, if you want to believe it's a globe, that's fine. We can still, get a beer and have a laugh and shake hands at the end of it. There doesn't need to be any sort of animosity. But yeah, so I started looking into it, and the more I looked into it, the more I realised, hang on a second here, and this is when I wanted to jump to what you said about that we experience it as a globe, because through my experience, I don't experience a globe through my senses. What I experience is a level plane. So when I see the horizon, I see a completely level line. I don't see any curvature. And yeah, there is, through my experiences, I've never seen any curvature, and I've never been able to experience any motion. So basically we're getting told that we're on a ball, and I then go, okay, can I verify this claim in any way? And I go to science, I go to practicality, I go to science that can be repeated and stuff. And when I went to investigate this question to get the scientific proof for the globe, there was a real lack of scientific proof. And that's when I was like, okay, and I've done a couple of observations as well, where you can go to the beach and you can view something that's 30 miles away. There's Ailsa Craig rock on the west coast of Scotland, which is 30 miles away. And if you stand on the shore, based on the size of the globe, we know the rate of curvature. It's a parabola. So do you guys know what a parabola is? An exponential curve?
Yeah.
Yeah? So basically the equation is 8 inches per mile squared. So after 1 mile, it's an 8-inch drop. After 2 miles, it's 32, and so on and so forth. So for something that's 30 miles in the distance, there should be something, I think, is it like 700? I forget the exact numbers, but it's something like the Ailsa Craig rock is 1,100 feet high, which would mean if it's 30 miles away, the 700 feet should be chopped off the bottom, and you should not be able to see it because it's around the curve.
Oh, okay.
But when I went there and did an observation, I could see the whole thing from top to bottom. And not only could I see the whole thing from top to bottom, I could actually see further past it, back onto the west coast of Scotland, which was even further than what is. And apparently people can see Ireland from the west coast of Scotland. I've not seen that, but apparently people can. But that isn't scientific proof that the Earth is flat, because we can't go by visible phenomena, because that's just the geometry of vision. Because if you look at, for example, when you look at the horizon, the sea appears to rise, the sky appears to come down, and it meets in the middle. For example, these trees, they appear to get smaller. They're not actually doing that. That's just how our eyes perceive them. So when we go by things that we see, we can't take that as a measurable thing. We need to be able to measure it practically. But yeah, that just gets me back to my point that when I was born into the claim that we're on a globe. When I go out into the real world and use science to try and verify it, I don't get anything. And to be honest, this has been going on now for like 3 or 4 years, and now I'm actually at the point where I know it maybe sounds like this is where it gets a little bit. Some people also reject this because there's also, in my opinion, there can be emotional and psychological things going on, because what I'm basically saying is if it is flat, right, and the globe is a lie, then what does that represent? That represents that we're being lied to because it's like a control mechanism. Because if you put human beings in a cage or a fence, like a farm animal, they're going to want to escape. But if you can convince them that they're on a ball and there's nowhere to go apart from space, they're going to stay here and just obey and be good slaves, basically. So if you don't think about this stuff and you just got your things and you maybe at uni, or you've got your job and you've got your hobbies and you're having fun and you never gave this any thought, for me to come along and say, hi, by the way, the people who we're supposed to trust, the people in power, are actually lying to us, we're not where we think we are, and your whole life's a complete lie, a lot of times people can have a sort of a reaction like this where they don't want to accept it, and they can get triggered as well, and it's that's basically something else to add. So
you think some sort of like elite controlling us, or using us in some way?
And also, what's the benefit of making humans think that we're on a globe?
yeah, that's a good question. I think in terms of like the elite controlling us and stuff, I would say I definitely think that there is a control system in place. I don't know exactly who it is or exactly what's going on, but I do see elements of control. And in regards to your question, the benefits,
going to take a huge amount of effort for a governing body or some like body of power
Yeah.
to put so much energy into convincing the whole world for generations that something isn't true.
Yeah.
Surely there's going to be a benefit for that.
Yeah, the benefits, I can only guess at what the benefit is because I'm not the one telling the lie. Only the person that's doing it actually knows what the benefit is. I can guess, and what the guess could be is, like I said before, control. There might be, other lands out there, other ponds out there that they don't want us going to, so they're just hiding land. There was a guy called Admiral Byrd who's done an interview which you can check out. He was an explorer, and he apparently went over, I think it was Antarctica or something, and they found more land bigger than America or something like that. I'm not sure. But also, which is interesting, there's an Antarctic treaty which has been signed by all the countries. You've heard of this? You're not allowed to go to Antarctica for scientific excavation or something, but they're all at war with each other in the middle, but they've all agreed that no one's allowed to go here. You're not allowed to go to the North Pole. So there's restricted areas. So that's why I'm doing this as well, is because I want people just curious about this question so that we can then go and explore and freely. And if it is a globe, I'll say, okay, cool, it's a globe. Do you know what I mean? I was wrong. I've wasted a lot of my life. Let's get back to whatever. But I think we should be allowed. I think we should be allowed to question this. I think we should be allowed to look at this and explore and see what else is out there. No restricted areas. The science community don't really want to talk about this topic. There's people who've been going to universities. We're trying to get the lecturers to talk about it, and it's been like people are avoiding it. So it adds more suspicion. But also back to the point of the motive. You've got NASA that are making $50 million a day. Okay, that's an incentive straight away, to make money.
Sorry, explain the.
So you're saying why would they lie about it being a globe?
So it's NASA that's lying about the globe.
Well, if I'm correct and it is a lie, then it would be all the space agencies, so NASA, but pretty much every nation has their own space agency.
Do you think that would be enough of an influence, or it would be education systems and governments?
What do you mean?
If it's space agencies that are somehow having this effect to convince everyone of a lie, do you think that's substantial for having that effect globally?
What was the
In
last bit of
my
that, sorry?
mind, I can't imagine that they would have enough power or influence.
Yeah, I mean, there's
There's
things
the whole
like
system of physics, right? Like what about gravity and what about the whole universe? Like you're questioning everything. If the world is flat and there's no space, there's no planets, there's no stars, there's no gravity.
Yeah.
What about all
it'd
the,
also be very difficult because you've
We'll
got.
come back to that.
like if I drop this and there's some gravity, right?
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the whole stuff about people have made trips around the Earth. So, how would you explain a flat plane that you can get around from all directions? Because there's obviously very famous examples of the first woman and things that have gone around. Do you think they're in on it, or are they fake stories? They're not even real people.
Good points. So, first of all, these are things in our mind. At the end of the day, when we actually go to our own experience, we've never experienced a globe, right?
We have though.
We have?
I mean, what you're saying is that we're on a flat plane.
Yeah.
So are you saying that this is is your idea that this is some sort of infinitely, what kind of, is it some sort of infinite flat plane?
Yeah. Well, back over here. Thanks. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, what the dimensions are, how it goes, if there's some sort of containment, if it's an infinite plane. I'm not sure.
Because if it was an infinite plane, or whatever kind of plane, we wouldn't experience the light from the sun in the same way. Because obviously there's different sides of the sphere, obviously day and night.
Yeah.
Well,
See, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get all your points, and I want to remember them and go through them. But see, the thing with each point, it's going to take
It's a new discussion. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'll do is, but I want to satisfy your questions. I don't want to say and not answer
Do you feel
it.
you have
I've got an
what
answer
you would
for every single.
consider
I've got
a full explanation
for every single one.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
What?
So for gravity, first of all, the question is, we're trying to establish the dimensions of the ground that we're on. So the way in which objects fall doesn't give us any measurable proof of what we're on. Gravity, I'll ask you, what is gravity? It pushes down.
No, well, gravity, I believe is like it's to do with mass, right? So, well, it's how science, as these so-called fakers have been telling us, is about how much mass something has. It pulls something towards it, because it's basically mass is affecting space.
Yeah.
Because space is as a dimension, you know.
Yeah.
So so it creates a dip in it, which is what like causes it to go down.
Yeah.
You're going down into this dip, and that's what attracts things together, which
Yeah.
is what the whole theory of solar system comes from.
Yeah.
So but that was sort of what I was thinking about before. When you say you've done sort of scientific, like your own scientific experiments.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them was looking at the horizon.
Yeah.
So can you delve into that? Like what? Because a lot of people have done scientific experiments
Okay.
to prove that it's a globe.
I'm going to just, we can, but I'm going to just stick with this gravity thing real quick. I went through the same thing when this person told me. I was like, well, what about gravity? You know, I dropped the thing. I was like, blah, blah, blah. So what, you're just saying that it's all... But basically, gravity is just a theory, yeah? First of all, Newton came along and it was mass attracting mass. Then Einstein came along and he said it was the warping and bending of space-time. I'm not saying that things don't fall to the ground. Yes, that's something that we can observe, okay? But gravity is, first of all, only a theory, and also it is, you can't measure it. You know what I mean? Give me some gravity. How do you measure it? Do you know what I mean? It's never been measured. So what I'm saying is, in order for the globe... Yeah, but there's a difference between practical science that we can show to each other as opposed to mathematical equations which explain...
Yeah, it's like what is it? It's not theoretical physics, but it's experimental physics. It's not you're not testing the actual thing existing. You're using things to prove that it has an effect on us. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter if it exists.
Mhm.
Just like, for example, like, your whole point about having like, what's your agenda to expose this? Because what does it really matter if it's a globe or a flat plane?
That's what I was going to ask.
To begin with.
Obviously, like,
It's fun to talk about.
some effect, but it's just a conspiracy theory, right? And I think there's much more pressing issues that are politically obvious that we should be addressing before we address
There are practical,
conspiracy theories.
which is what you're talking about, more practical stuff. Like matching.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And you know what? For me personally, I see a huge relevance and importance. That's why I've decided that I want to pursue it. Because if it is the case, then, you know, if it isn't a globe and we are on some sort of level plane, that means that I want to know where I am. You know, if I believe that I'm on a ball all the time in this space and all this stuff and it's actually a lie to control me, I want to know where I am. So that's why I see the relevance and importance. Getting back really quickly to the mathematics, mathematics is it's a language that we use to describe the physical reality. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
So first of all, before the mathematics, we need to have the practical substance in order for demonstration for science. So if I was to say to you guys, right, any of you, man to man, woman to man, right now, if you were to try and convince me that we are on a globe, without appealing to consensus, without appealing to authority, how would you do that?
Without appealing to authority.
Yeah, just human to human, right here, right now.
Well, maybe I'd get like a laser level, you know, like a big laser and like point it and just see like what happens. Maybe like have a straight laser line.
That's been done.
If the world like curves over it.
That's been done.
Yeah, but wasn't that done and prove that the world was round?
No, it proves it's level.
Okay, that's not why that should.
No, people have done it to prove that has proved that it's they don't even need to do it on like a big scale either. I've actually seen this. I think it actually proves. Oh, fuck, what was this? You don't have to do it a very long distance. It's called like the sheet of paper experiment, and it shows that I'm pretty sure it shows that it's not level, but like I say, I don't know it, so I don't have the expertise. It's why there's people that have studied this all their lives, and they'd be kind of a waste of resources and their life to try to pretend, you know, Like, I don't know. What do you think these physicists are, like, what's their goal in it themselves? If, like, to fake it?
Do you think they actually genuinely believe what they're, like, if it's like a professor, like, do you think they actually believe what, or do you think they're being, like, paid off, or what do you think? Like,
So
I
that's
think-
what I'm trying to ask you.
Yeah, I think most of it is they're not being paid off. I think it's more that, I mean, for example, like the people, for example, that work in NASA, you know, they're doing their job, but they don't really know, like they're building a rocket, for example, or they're doing the mathematics to calculate what they need to do to travel at a certain speed, because they believe that's where they are. Or astrophysicists, they're getting data coming from the Hubble telescope given to them. They'll then look at the data and they'll calculate, but,
No. That's not what we're asking.
sorry, what are you asking?
So there's something like 10,000 physicists on an expert level that live in the UK alone. A lot of them say that the Earth is a globe, and they're just doing experiments from it's experiential experiments. So it's not like getting data from a machine. It's getting data from experiments that they're doing.
Yeah.
Not second-hand data, but primary data.
Yeah.
Is what it's called, I think.
Yeah.
So that there'd be no reason for these people who've taken 5-6 years, 15 years probably, to study like a subject,
Yeah.
to then like either get it wrong, I suppose, or go along with, I don't know, the status quo, to go along with the cool kids. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
Well,
so many people.
no, it's a
do
good
that.
question, and it's like that's one of the main questions that people say. It's like, well, if it is true, then what's everybody in on it? Do you know what I mean? And it's a good question, but when you dig a little deeper, I would say that first of all, you've got the funding, for example, for science. You know, so if this is true and the rulers of the world are doing this, and they control the funding for who gets what, then there is a status quo. You know.
So then they're only funding the people that are saying that.
I'm not saying that. But what I will say is, these physicists that we're talking about, which, by the way, is an appeal to authority because it's not our own experience.
Expert authority who have done the research.
Again,
Like I wouldn't go to anyone to build my house. Like I know guys have taken years out of their life to train to become expert craftsmen and things
Yeah.
to get the right material to do the right job and get the right tools.
yeah,
So yeah, I would always go to an expert to try to find
Yeah.
a good answer.
Is
And
your,
to be for multiple examination, you go to multiple.
is your main issue that you just don't know how you would prove? Because do you have a way that you would want to prove that the Earth is flat, or is it just that you doubt, or is it just that you doubt the possibility, or that you acknowledge the possibility that what we know could be wrong? Because that's just like the nature of science is that everything is getting proven and disproven like constantly. But I don't think that necessarily means that things are like a conspiracy.
yeah.
So I don't. What
I mean,
are you?
we can't know anything for certain, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing. The only thing we can know for certain is that we exist.
No, I disagree. I think we can know things for certain. Like, for example,
We know for certain.
I think you can know something for certain if you can follow the scientific method using practical substance.
So what?
That's through your own senses, and your senses aren't reliable.
With calculated science.
So like, who's to
No,
say
but that thing there, we know that's here because we can measure it.
We're perceiving that with our own senses. Our
Uh-huh.
senses aren't reliable.
Wait, say that again.
So we're perceiving that with our own senses, right?
Uh-huh.
Our eyes, our ears, everything. We can touch it.
Yeah.
Our senses aren't necessarily reliable in themselves.
Yeah, like a mirage is exactly that. It's not a thing that exists, but your senses essentially want it to exist. So it
Yeah, no,
comes
but
into being.
this we can measure this in the
But
practical
only,
world.
We're only using our senses, right? We have to be able to see.
Yeah,
and
even
touch.
touch, even
and
touch
yeah,
can be
exactly. And all of our senses aren't necessarily reliable as a truth. The only certainty that we have is that we exist. There's something that exists as itself. I don't know if any of you exist, but I know that I exist. It's the only certainty we have.
We're just having fun guessing around here. That's essentially all the thing is.
We
Like,
build-
I get where you're coming from, but I would disagree. I would say that things that we can know to be true are things that we can measure practically. For example,
yeah, yeah.
that we know that that's
It's a
there
different type of
because we
It's
can
belief, it's
measure it.
belief.
It's a belief,
Yeah, belief is, yeah.
I don't believe that that's there. That's there, mate.
but it's not necessarily knowledge, is it?
Yes, it's knowledge because we know it's there because we can measure it and we can all experience it. And if we
But-
test
but
it, we'll get
knowl-
and
knowledge
observe
is a-
it, we'll get the
knowledge
same
is a-
results
knowledge
over and
is a
over.
truth, right? Like a certainty, right? So it has to be
Yeah.
able to be proven, but we can't prove that our senses work and aren't being tricked by something. You know,
It's the whole concept of
You know,
qualia
we could
where
be
you
in a
can't-
simulation. We could be in anything, any sort of scenario, right? So there is no truths, but the best
Yeah.
we've come up with is science.
I accept that
right?
that's that you think that's possible. True, no problem. I disagree. I think we can through measuring, but that's fine. We can disagree.
Is that, so you're
Do I-
believing in science
So,
then?
so you
No,
believe
no.
That what we perceive to be real is real?
No, I'm saying that if we can measure something practically, and we can make tests upon it and repeat these tests and make
That's
make
that's
predictions.
That's what you're saying. What we perceive.
You keep interrupting me because you're triggered. Have you noticed?
I'm a little bit annoyed that you don't understand what I'm saying.
So what? So,
Look at-
so that's the thing. Why are you triggered right now? And again, I'm being very.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
So why would that trigger you though?
Because you don't seem to be trying to understand what I'm saying.
Okay. See, this is what I mean. You know how before I talked about the emotional side of things.
Well, I am quite emotionally.
So you're
attached
emotional?
to my beliefs and my perception of reality.
It's possibly
quite a
because
big-
I'm right, and what I'm saying is threatening your psychological and
I
emotional
don't feel very
balance
threatened.
internally.
No,
I feel like gotcha media, that's what I
I
feel like.
really don't.
I'm just having fun here, by the way. I'm not attacking you, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just
No,
being
I know,
direct,
I really
you know.
am saying I
Because
don't
at the end of the day, we're still going to shake hands and
Right, yeah.
wish you a good time. Do you know what I mean? I'm
It's
not
nice
looking
to have a
for.
chat. I don't feel threatened or anything, man. I'm just saying that what I believe to be true is that our senses aren't reliable, and that there are no certain truths apart from the individual. And I think that should kind of be a given, you know.
That's fair enough. I'll accept that. I respect that. No problem.
What is it that you are like, for the purposes of your video? What is it you're trying to like actually expose?
I'm just looking to get honest reactions about what
Reactions to
about the subject, to see what people have heard about it, what their opinion is of it, what their questions are. And to be honest, you guys have been great. You know, it's been an honest reaction. We've done some interesting points. You have been honest, so I couldn't have asked for more. It's been perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, this is like the start to a genuine scientific paper. It's qualitative research that you're doing, which is like, it's the start to then doing actual experiments, which I imagine is probably the aim of whatever this is.
Yeah. No, well, I think we should probably end it there. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're obviously having a wee drink and having a good time, so yeah, I appreciate your time.
That's right.
Mate,
Nice to meet you,
good
mate.
talking to you. It's
Yeah,
good.
you too, man.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's right. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, what was your name?
Justin.
Justin.
Yeah.